A beacon calling all ships. Fog bank. Iceberg. Welcome to Center of Light tonight via Rena suggestion. We're speaking about surrender. I had just thought about that. So Rena and I connected at the hip, the spiritual hip. And I said, let me see what's up with Rena. She says, how about surrender? I was like, girl, come on with it. So tonight is Center of Light. Release it all. Let go. Renunciate. Trust. I get it can be tough. Tonight is Center of Light. Release. Surrender. Probably the greatest spiritual principle. Doing the work, fantastic. Is surrendering all of it, even the method. Is that what surrender is? Just releasing it all. Everything. Where there's nothing left. I'm willing to try. Checking a few things. System might crash. Surrender everything. Hello, Pamela. YouTube. Letting go. Hi, Kelly. Letting it all go. What does surrender look like? I feel a download coming in. What does surrender look like? Looks like your death. Because when you die, you will have surrendered. You will have surrendered your body back to the earth from which you have it on loan. You ain't taking nothing of what you bring with you. You're taking your love. That will never die. As the Bee Gees say, sing in that song, Too Much Heaven. For all that we are can never die. Everything else is transient and will be burnt away. In the ashes, the phoenix, the Christ risen with you, Jesus surrendered completely. If you want to follow the teacher, it is required. Too many people are mired in other things. That's their path. God bless you. I want something a little more gravy. I want more gravy on my biscuit, please. Pass me the salt. So tonight is Center of Light. Release. It's like an orgasm. It's complete release. What happens when, well, what happens when you have the big O, other than you saying oh, and you're already calling out to God already? Dear God, oh God, oh God. What does it feel like? When you fire off, if you will? A part of you, sexually, falls, and you fall into purification fire. Do you know? That's why you feel such bliss. See, the bliss already exists. You don't create the bliss. Sexual activity just so happens to be the gateway, or a gateway, powerful gateway, to tapping into the universal stream of bliss, which is always in existence. It's always there. Always. That implies time even. Always. It's beyond words that we can use. Bliss. There it is. Always has been. And we get there through surrender. Hello, Katie. Robert Harrison. So thank you, Rena, for the beautiful suggestion. Center of Light tonight, release. So again, what does surrender look like? It looks like your death. So when you lose your corporeal self, you will have surrendered back into the all of things. the big and small of things. So, if surrender happens, it's inevitable. When we lay our body down and the spirit rises up and we move to a glory, heavenly glory level, can we mimic that very same thing and have it now? How do we do that? I like the idea, Keith. So how do I do that? You have to die. What you know as you has to go. And you can't bring one piece of cookie with you. You better eat it before you cross the threshold, or you're not crossing the threshold. You can't bring anything on this boat. There are too many people wanting on it. So no extra weight. You have to be light. You have to be light. And light, not heavy. Don't be so heavy, man. Lighten up. Enlightenment. Lighten the mood. Everyone wants on this boat, and no one can bring any baggage. It's just the way it is. When you fly in a plane, you get 2 carry-ons. That's it. You want to fly? You have to be light. And to move into said light, you have to die. Can't bring your luggage. The skeletons, as light as they are, they can't come either. Keep them in the closet at the house. Pawn them. So, how do we surrender when we're alive? So we can live. You have to die. You can't bring your thoughts. You can't bring your beliefs. You can't bring your religion. You can't bring your morals. You can't bring your scruples. You can't bring your dogma. You can't bring your husband or wife. You can't bring your children. You can't bring your family. You're going at it alone. By yourself. Are you happy being with yourself? Are you good company to yourself? And even taking it a step further, deeper, how you think you like yourself and why you think you like yourself, that's going to go as well. I mean, exactly. There's nothing left. That's what surrender is. I quit. I don't mean I quit or I give up. It means I quit. I give up. I stop all the noise. I stop all the movement. I just simply be still within myself. I don't mean in a meditation. Yes, I do. But I mean ongoingly as a disposition. Be still and know God. Be still and know. Be still and know. You can move around, and in your moving around, there's a stillness about you. It's all about you. And it's all about you. Stillness is all about you. It's all around. Because you're not feeling the stillness. That's why you're going, wow, I've achieved everything. I feel nothing but stillness around me. That's not what's happening. You become the stillness and therefore begin to emote such energy, love, blessings, bestow upon everyone else around you. And when you leave the conversation, you say, my God, did you feel that person? They just seem so calm, joyful, and happy. What's their name? And the name is whatever name that's yours. Surrender. Yes, Keith. We live in a world of practicality and duality, and we have choices to make and family to feed. I get all that. You can still be in a state of samadhi, the cave of God, still as you function your work, your task, serve, but it does require surrender. Center of light, release, surrender. The definition of surrender is I'm going to surrender this link in this feed for something that feeds my spirit. And it's fed lots of other spirits as well. A remember and the surrender. Homecoming, crossing the bridge to the soul. My new bestseller, it's in the room. If you read this book already, please use the same link, hyperjump, yeah, I love that word, hyperjump to Amazon and leave me a review or leave me some stars. Lavender Soul CDs, they are for sale. 3 of them for $20 when I used to sell all $20 per. Eden Sky wonders why my children's book series modeled after my now 15-year-old son, which he was 6 years old. The definition of surrender. It's gorgeous. Cease resistance to an enemy or opponent and submit to their authority. Same applies in the opposite side. It's still surrender. Cease resistance, not to the enemy, but, well, the enemy would actually, that would be true. Because the enemy, I'm not saying the ego is not beautiful and purposeful, but let's play it out this way. Cease resistance to an enemy, the darkness inside, the monkey that shrouds and clouds the heart, because it's just too noisy. Cease resistance to an enemy or an opponent and submit to authority. God would be the highest authority. God's name is not God. It's not his name. But it does invoke an image of the highest authority. That's not what God's name is. We don't have the vocal cords nor the understanding that we have capsulated in this corporeal self, at least at this level of consciousness, unless you're divine incarnation, even to utter the name of God. We call it Yanava, we call it Jesus, we call it Buddha, we call it Krishna, we call it... This is not what God is all. These are all fractals and fragments of the one unified, omnipresent God, spirit, wholeness, consciousness, intelligence, foreverness. How do you pronounce God's name when God is forever? How do you begin that search? So surrender looks like your death, only for you to be reborn. The definition of surrender is to cease resistance to authority. The authority I'm speaking about is the highest level of love. Again, like the Bee Gees sang in that song, Too Much Heaven. For all we are can never die. I hear that song, it makes me cry. I love me some Bee Gees. Wow. Wow. All right, let's keep moving on. Tonight, of course, I do have a powerful, but powerful, 2 words, presentation. Shortly, in just a little bit, I'm going to play a video of my new teacher. You're my new teacher, but you're kind of old. We've been hanging out for a while. Here's my new friend, Shunyamurti, from Sat Yoga organization. Look up SATYOGA.org, satyoga.org. In fact, I'm going to grab it. It's such a major part of my teachings, as well as my grateful learnings about how to surrender. What is surrender? You answer it. I'm asking you. Feel free to put a word or two or sentence. What is surrender? Or it can be rhetorical. Have you ever asked yourself that question in the first place? What is surrender? Be careful. I'm warning you. Be careful. When you ask such a question of yourself, you're playing with spiritual dynamite. Because you can't undo the answer that's going to come through your consciousness. And when you get that answer flying through your consciousness, or at least one answer through your consciousness, you have to live up to it. It's never going to let you off the hook. So what is surrender? It means I have to, or it means this or that. Now that you know this or the that, it's always going to remind you, because everywhere you go, it's going to follow you like a shadow or a Siamese twin. Be careful. You may get the answer you're hoping for, so be careful. Be mindful. Actually, be mindless. Get out of the mind. The mind is the reason one will find themselves wanting to surrender. So you're already there. We just haven't done it yet. Surrender. Rena says you give it all up. Everything. Rena also says the enemy is you. Yeah, we're not our best friend, are we? Sometimes. Can everybody hear everything okay? Music okay? Not too loud? Let's see what's happening in the Facebook room. Hello, everyone, all you beautiful, sexy human creatures. Robert says, I want to non-sentient. Hello, Tina. Robert says, also, I want to be a hermit without a body or a mind. Robert is correct. We're all correct. You're correct. Surrender is peace. Peace would be a result of surrendering. What is the act? Do you have to act at all? Do you have to act like a fool? Jesus was called a fool. Tesla, Einstein, they were called fools. So you have to act like a fool. Be foolish with yourself in such a way that no one around you else will dare to do. See what I'm saying? You gotta die. I say, you look at those people around you, let's just say the elderly, go ahead within yourself and surrender and celebrate their passing as if it just happened this morning. Well, Keith, isn't that focusing on supporting the death of my loved one because I'm thinking about it? Two completely different things. The vibration is different. This is not, oh my God, my loved ones are going to die. This is, oh my God, I'm celebrating my loved one's life. So that when the passing does happen, it doesn't hit you so hard. I do this all the time. I am so blissful and in myself about my mother's passing. I wish she didn't go, but I'm good. I'm connected to her, so I don't feel the missing. I've surrendered the nonsense in my head that made me feel that in my past, this horrible disconnection. That is not surrender at all. You have to surrender even the passing of your loved ones. The ones that already have passed, or the ones you found out about yesterday and today, and the ones you will find out about in the future when they're going to be doing the same when it's your turn to pass. What do you do with all that? Well, Keith, this is all part of the beautiful ceremony of being human. Oh, I get it. How much does it affect you? Whatever affects you in your life, whatever it may be, even the good stuff. Yeah, I get it. We want the good stuff. I get it. It's close to representation of spirit. I get it. But that's not what spirit is either. Spirit supersedes and surpasses all of that. So surrender means nothing. Literally nothing. But no, you can't have it. Nothing. It means absolutely nothing. So how do I achieve that place, that grace? How do I achieve surrender? You don't do that either. This is the magic of surrender. You don't achieve a state or a space of the grace of surrendering. It's a realization, but it's not in the head. It's in the bed that you cosmically lay in and nicely make for yourself every morning after you wake up. There's no way to surrender except just to surrender. There are tricks, there are techniques, there are ways you can work, and you may be spot on and it may have triggered something for you. But there is no way to surrender except to surrender. There is no way to surrender except to surrender. And if you try to figure out a way to surrender, you haven't surrendered yet. In fact, you're going the opposite direction. Do you understand? Hello, Sue Lindsay. I miss you, Sue Lindsay. Took me a while to find you, but I did. And I'm grateful. Hi to you and your husband and yours. Don't try to figure out how to surrender. Basically, it can feel as strange as walking outside in public and peeling your clothes off in front of everybody. The point is, the same uncomfortableness can happen to you. It feels strange, feels awkward. I feel naked. You're going to have to be comfortable being naked to completely surrender, because that is what surrender is. It's being naked, pulling everything else, all the nonsense completely out of the way, so that what you do are really doing is exposing yourself. You allow the raw, naked, spiritual, wild, unbridled self to step up, step in, step forward, step out. How do you do that? No one knows how to do it. So that's something written about in a book, and that'll give you the absolute and finality of it all. You have to find your way by not finding your way. You have to simply let go of what? That's for you to figure out. How about everything? As long as you're talking in your head, you will never surrender. If you're trying to figure it out, you will never surrender. No amount of talking will explain someone diving off of a high diving board the first time when they've been scared to death for a long time. That's what happened to me as a kid. I was scared. All my friends are diving off the high diving board, and they're laughing at me. Look at Keith holding on to the side of the pool. I didn't like that shit. I didn't like it at all. And also didn't like the fact that they were having so much fun doing something that scared me to death, and I couldn't understand why. So I was trying to rationalize in my mind the best way to get up the ladder, how I'm going to jump so I don't hurt myself or kill myself when I fall. I was trying to figure out how to surrender myself to get up that ladder, to get on that high diving board, to finally jump off and surrender, to release, let go, and jump off the cliff, or out of a perfectly moving airplane, if you will. None of those thoughts helped me in the surrender. In fact, they scared me the bejesus out of me and made me no longer not want to surrender in the first place. But finally, the fire took over and said, I'm going to baptize you in the light today, Keith. You are going to jump. There were no words that entered my mind when my feet left that high diving board. Nothing. All I felt, experienced, was a graceful fall into the water, the ocean, the divine ocean. And I came to a realization in the surrendering of all the nonsense. I just simply jumped. I didn't ask, how do I jump? I just 1, 2, 3, jump. And I stopped. I had a thought. Oh my God. Come on, Keith, go. There's a lot of people back here. Go. 1, 2, 3. And I just did it. Got all the thought out the way. And I jumped. And I find myself hitting the water. Realized it didn't kill me. In fact, it gave me life. Because in hitting the water, as I'm still under it, I realized I didn't die. I had a fear of death as to why I wasn't doing it. So the fear of death was killing me. And when I hit the water, the realization gave me life. Now I'm pushing kids out of the way to cheat and cut in line to get up the ladder to go do it again. I was exhilarated. Analogously, likewise, surrender. Many people can teach you how, or tricks, or how they did it rather, but it may not be your way. You can't take your husband or wife with you. You can't take your children with you. This is how powerful it is. Because it belongs to you and you alone. No one else. And to everyone else, it belongs to them and them alone, not you. They call it a leap of faith. I say a horse poop. It's not a leap of faith. If you had the faith, you'd already be in the fire. You have to leap. You have to trust. Well, some people need to trust. But if the trust was there, you would have already leaped. So, we have to jump into the fire. What's in there, Keith? Nothing. What's the point of jumping? That's it. That is the point. The point is jumping itself. There's no reason. There's no rhyme. But I can tell you, this is a season and there is no more time. Jump for the sake of jumping. Don't expect to find something in your surrender, because you're still carrying luggage when you do this. Jump. There's nothing in there except everything. Do you want it now, or do you want it later? All in your own good time, or no time. Surrender. You have to die. You have to exhaust everything that you have breathed life into to give you what you think you are due, which only makes you comfortable. I'm content. I don't like the word content. It's not enough. Surrender. Release. Orgasm. Let go. Quit. Just quit. Quit yourself. Divorce yourself. Because what you think you are is the aspect of you that needs to be divorced. People who divorce, they grieve not because they divorced a partner. They grieve because they divorced themselves. Grieve if you must. Release. Allow the real self, the risen Christ, the Buddhic principle, the lotus flower, the phoenix, to move into your space. All over your face, you will find this grace. It's such a delicious place to be. Every time I'm so addicted to these presentations. Even if no one was here, I was doing it for me. I just fall into this space, and it's a catalyst for me. I don't know why, but it's my way of surrendering. Rena, I'm just using Rena. She loves her garden. She loves flowers. She loves planting. Planting? She's planting seeds within herself. And all these things are sprouting for her in the form of validating her joy. So obviously these flowers and everything she's nurturing with her spiritual soil come to a space of fruition. And she's validated how she surrenders by doing what she loves. Doing what you love is a way to surrender. Because when you become really good at what you love, you don't think about playing the guitar or cooking food. You've already surrendered to that nonsense. That's why you're a master chef. You've already surrendered. You're in the fire. Master chef uses fire. Cooks food. Sustenance. We take it in. We express, we give to others. Surrender. Make your life an act of worship. Conscious worship. Because we are all worshiping something all the time, conscious or not. What are we worshiping unconsciously? Surrender. Be right back. I'm going to go surrender myself to the little boy's room. Excuse me. I'm going to play some Shunyamurti here shortly. He's got a message that's going to peel away the madness. I love it. How about, let's see if we got a Lavender Soul song. I wish I could play other music. I'm not just so full of myself. I can't. It's copyrighted stuff, and you get slapped, they start shutting you down, and but I am about to start recording a new album. This is going to happen come income tax time. I got lots of ideas. I've already spoken to the phone and played some chords, and It's going to go by quickly. I know exactly how to do it and to achieve those things. I've surrendered my life to my work, my play, my passion. Surrender. What is surrender? Don't come up with an answer. But yet, be looking, be searching within. Just simply, in fact, if you can, at some point go into a meditation and ask yourself, what is surrender? What does it look like? How do I do it? Don't expect an answer to throw through your conscious stream. Don't wait for one. Just be in the question. What is surrender? And you just sit there and wait. Why? Because you have all the time there is, eternal soul. So you sit there and wait for eternity, if necessary, to get the answer. Ironically, the better you become at being willing to sit there for eternity, it will hasten its arrival. You will know when surrender kisses you on your face. There's no way you cannot. How about angel of love? Will you always be with me so I can let go? Reveal to me the beauty of your soul. I turned away, the light was so blinding, the energy of her love. She said goodbye and turned into a dove. Check it out.
She turned to me and told me life was not too easy unless you can let go. I lay surprised at the simpleness of her soul. Wasting away in a sea of uncertainty. She had stayed with me for days. I needed love in so many different ways. And as I watched, she floated through the room. And as I cried, she was there to dry them too. Hold me and don't let go. Hold me. Never leave. Never leave. Angel of love, will you always be with me so I can let go? Reveal to me the beauty of your soul. I turned away, her light was so blinding, the energy of her love. She said goodbye as I cried. She was there to dry them too. Hold me and don't let go. Hold me, never leave. Hold me and don't let go. Hold me, never leave. Never leave. She turned to me, told me life was not too easy unless you can let go. Reveal to me the beauty of your soul.
Welcome back to Center of Light Color, Center of Light Online Radio and Live in Color. We're speaking about surrender tonight. Thank you for the suggestion. I love her, Rena. She owns a piece of my heart. That's for sure. So does Kelly. All of you do, but this is Rena's blessing. She said, "Keith, why not speak about surrender?" I was like, how perfect is that? So tonight is Center of Light. Always change the last word. Center of Light Release. Tonight's presentation is titled Surrender. What does surrender look like? It looks like you dying. You on the other side of your death, just releasing all of it, even the body, if necessary. The people that watch these presentations, at least up to this point, I'm so grateful to know and be in the garden with you, because you're not into the political nonsense. Listen, I play the political game. I want to keep up, so I have a handle. I want to know there's something hiding behind that tree waiting to lunge out at me rather than not knowing. That sounds fear-based, but it's not fear-based. It's taking responsibility for my life, because we are in traffic. Whether you like it or not, you are in moving traffic. There is traffic on this highway, and it moves like the Autobahn in Germany. Not everybody's driving responsible in this traffic in your life. Hello, planet Earth, citizens, denizens. You're here. There's traffic fleeting about you. Not only to be responsible for yourself, yeah, that's why you have a rearview mirror, so you can look and see what's happening, what's happened in your past. But also who's trying to pass me, which is okay. You can pass me. This is not a competition. Be careful when you change lanes in front of me is what I'm asking. So we have to be double vigilant on our responsibility and awareness, because Earth is sort of like the solar Earth is the solar Autobahn. Something's going on weird. Everything looks normal. Something gave a little glitch and it's concerning me. One moment, please. There it is. I love technology. So what does surrender look like? I brought up just a minute ago that none of us are drowning in the political world. None of us are really drowning in the world, or you. I'm speaking for the collective of what I see move up and down my feet and the people like you that I connect with. What does surrender look like? You're doing it. No one taught you how to do it. You're just surrendering the world. You're not into the game and the charlatans and the charade that's happening all in front of you. You're keeping up with it because you want to know whether You can go to the store to get something to eat. I mean, you don't want to go up against a guard because you weren't informed about this new martial law. You want to know so you can be not surprised, and they go, what are you freaking out about? I mean, you see what I'm saying? It's about being aware, staying present, not with current events. Current events has nothing to do with presence. It requires your presence to see things simply as events that are occurring in this conscious moving stream on this solar autobahn. You're doing it. Don't try to surrender, because you won't. You might have some success, but you will not be as successful what the word surrender actually implies in the first place. But you will never be successful trying to surrender, because the mind wants to get busy. How do I surrender? The mind will give you a whole bunch of ideas. The mind will tell you exactly what you think you need to know and what it wants you to know. Because the mind is the monkey. So don't believe the monkey. Ooh, ooh, ah, ah. Ooh, 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 ooh. Right? So you have to take a shortcut. You have to detour. You have to take the off ramp and get off of this autobahn of the crazy drivers like they are in Memphis, planet Earth. You got to take the ramp. You got to take an exit. You got to exit from all of it. How do you enter? Surrender. You exit. It's zero. It's nothing. It's just nothing. Have you really ever practiced nothing? Nothing is a practice. I know many people that practice nothing. Have you ever practiced nothing? Ask yourself, how do you go about practicing nothing? And automatically you catch yourself thinking about such a way that can make it possible. And then you also see, by being the observer, that who gave me that answer? That's not you. How do I practice nothing? Well, you sit here and you take a breath. Who said that? I'm not saying taking a breath is not a good thing, but who said that? What you really are is beyond the breath anyway. So there should be nothing happening. How do I practice nothing? You don't do anything. You don't think anything. And simply you become everything. My mind's talking to me. Literally it is. Fall, Keith. I don't have to listen to my mind tell me to fall. My intention to jump out of the plane is the falling itself. So that voice may be a guide, but sometimes guitar students surpass their teachers. Sometimes culinary chefs, or soon to be, or wanting to be, the sous chef in life becomes Gordon Ramsay when he had a chef that was a master that was over him. Same idea. You get it. You got to do it your own way. So what is it I need to do? The art of nothing. Shunyamurti, my new love. For those who are new, not only to my work, but at least if you stepped away for a while. Who is Shunyamurti? The Sat Yoga Institute. I don't know the structure, but satyoga.org. It's in this room. You will see about this man, within this man, how it comes out of his mouth, how he lives in such a sweet, surrendered past tense, present moment, and he's all future possibility of every one of us. He's sitting in that sweet fire, that sweet spot. And you will see an amber glow about him, not because of the color of the screen. That's not what I'm referring to. But you will see this soft burn fire about this man. Fire will come out of his mouth, but it won't burn you. He speaks fire, but from a loving, warming space versus burning you alive. But he does want to kill you. He does want to kill you. I could explain that comment away, but I'm not. If you take me out of context, you have not surrendered. Those who are walking toward the gate of launch date to surrender know exactly what I'm saying. He wants to kill you. He wants to fill you inside, but you must be willing to die. You will see that soft glow. He does not lack words, and the word choice he uses, it'll move you, man. He's conscious. Let him seep his way into your experience. You don't have to listen to the words. In fact, you probably won't be able to key in on the words. At first, it's going to feel like you're listening to the words, which you will always be. Trust me when I tell you, on the backside of this video, I think most of you will agree that I forgot most of half everything he said, but I feel something. That is the place where he sits. Where we all sit, he's just aware of the chair. His own chair. This is my chair, you got your chair, that's his chair. I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to surrender the next 21 plus minutes to Shunyamurti. The title of this presentation, it's worthy of me naming or saying the title of this presentation by Shunyamurti. It is called, I love it, Self-Inquiry and Self-Surrender. Thank you, Rena. Self-inquiry and self-surrender. Two paths or one? Question mark. Jump into the fire.
In the early phases of the spiritual journey, when the quest becomes conscious and deliberate and serious, the approach tends to be divided among four personality types, we could say. Not the personality strategies that the ego applies so much, but there are people oriented toward action. And their motivation is immediately to do something, to achieve something on the physical level, make something happen. And they will be involved in whatever, acquiring land for an ashram, or building a church, or a mosque, or a temple, or writing a book, or doing something to spread the word and to create conditions for their own spiritual growth and perhaps for others. Perhaps they'll just leave their job and move to the country and focus like Thoreau did at Walden Pond on his own self's inner life. Whatever, it'll be an active approach. Service. And then there are those whose approach is more devotional, the bhakti types, who will be more interested in prayer and in devotional activities. Could be going to church or going to the Hindu temple and doing pujas and supporting the work of monks and priests and participating in holidays and events going on their knees into the cathedral of the Virgin of Guadalupe, all those kinds of activities that humble the ego and bring it into a more devotional relation to God. And then there are the the meditative types who say, no, I just want to sit and practice going deep within, and I don't want to know anything about external practices or action or even prayer. I just want to try to find out what is the meaning of I, or however the quest is formulated. And then there are the jnani types who will want to read up on it, read everything they can on comparative religion. What do the Buddhists think? What are the mystical Christians talking about? What are the deepest philosophical understandings of the nature of reality? And they will get caught up in those metaphysical structures and edifices that they hope will lead to ever higher levels of perception and clarity. As one goes further on the path, the division really begins to break down not into four but just into two. And one is the feeling of the capacity to do it oneself, the sense that I know I am one with God. I will realize the jnana as an act of will to silence the mind, and I won't depend on any external sources of authority or of help or of internal. And then the bhakti approach is I surrender to God. And so when one comes to an approach like that of Sri Ramana, in which the very direct path is offered, then one either tends to think, all right, I'll do Atma Vichara, I will ask who am I, and that's it. Nothing else need to be done. And I won't worry about action, because prarabdha karma is determined anyway. Whatever shall be, ke sara sara. And I'll focus entirely on the Atma Vichara and investigate this question of who am I. But then the bhakti type says, no, I can't do that. I can't concentrate, really. I can't reach this, or it's too abstract, or I don't get it on that level. But what I can do is surrender to God. I'll surrender my life to God. And what they generally mean by that is a surrender of one's bodily life in the beginning. In other words, I'll do what is necessary to follow the Dharma. I will lead as sattvic a life as possible. Or I'll dedicate myself in service in some very formal way. Or I'll join a community that's dedicated to such an approach, and I'll surrender to God and Guru and Dharma and Sangha and take refuge with the Buddha, whatever the approach is. But it will be a partial surrender, because although the bodily life will be surrendered and perhaps speech will be surrendered, which is a much more subtle and difficult sadhana. In other words, if I'm surrendered to God, then my words should always be about God. I shouldn't talk about anything else. There shouldn't be any small talk. Shouldn't be any vulgar speech. There shouldn't be any gossip. There shouldn't be any ego undermining of other people's quest for the purity of heart, of God consciousness. I mustn't let my Maya leak out to others. I shouldn't talk about my doubts and my fears and my confusions to other people, so they don't mimic it, and I don't create psychic contagion and undermine the morale of others who are on the quest. All of those aspects of the hygiene of speech will become part of one's service, one's surrender to God. One won't use speech as an instrument of the ego any longer, but as an instrument to remind oneself and others of why we're here, and of the presence of God that should always be motivating our actions and our words. But then what happens is that at a very much more refined and profound level of the search, it becomes clear that the only real surrender is of the mind itself. Any other surrender is just a superficial outward, and often it can be a hypocritical approach. Because, you can speak all the right words, and you can do all the right philanthropic things, and you can get up for 4 a.m. meditation and do all of that, but inside you're thinking about all kinds of Maya. And the mind is not willing or able to remain focused on pure awareness. And so the one who is doing self-investigation discovers the same thing. I'm trying to do Atma-vichara, but the thoughts are wandering. The thoughts are going in other directions. There's distraction. There isn't this continuous, unbroken remembrance of I am I. And not remembrance as a thought, but as the realization of that. It's not happening, you see. So when one reaches that point, then there is no longer any difference between surrender and Atma-vichara. They are the same. And it comes down to one's will to surrender all of one's thoughts. Okay, because, and going to the very root thought, the very I thought that creates and sustains the ego, that itself must be offered to the silent presence that is pure awareness. Nothing else counts but that. And if that isn't done, then really all the other efforts were in vain, because the ego will simply create another dream and forget about it at some point with the death of the body, and the karma will not end. However, it may be that in the next life, because of all of that good karma that one did, one will be born into a dream that's very opportune for completing the journey. But that's another dream. We don't want to put off to another dream and all of those unknown chances or lack thereof to what can be gained now. So at some point it becomes very clear. Nothing else really counts in this spiritual journey except the complete, constant offering of the I thought until it is incinerated in the fire of yoga, the fire of the union of waking attention with the pure awareness that destroys the ego and brings the rebirth as the manifestation of the self. Or you could say the unmanifestation of the self, because one will no longer be identified with manifest form, but with that formless presence that is transcendent of all manifestation, but will appear in the manifest dream to others, to those who seek. So it is this realization that the two are one, the Atma Vichara and the self-surrender, which can only happen through love. It can't happen just through some intellectual curiosity. It's not going to happen through willpower alone. It's not going to happen through any other force or good karma. It's not going to happen as a result of how much money one gave to charity or donated to an ashram or any of those things. They'll help. All of that helps because it shows the one's willingness to make a sacrifice. And the more one is willing to sacrifice at the partial level of body, of speech, of money, of time, of energy, of goodwill, of all of those forms, the more sattvic one's ego becomes, and the more the sanskara of sacrifice then leads to the final ability to sacrifice the I thought itself, one's dearest treasure, and let go of the fear of the loss of everything that entails to the ego. The loss of your free will, your options to decide to do something else with your life, all of that the especially postmodern ego is so reluctant to give up and to make a commitment toward anything, let alone a commitment that's going to require the elimination of the ego that makes that commitment. So this is a very rare capacity for total self-sacrifice, and it is that and that alone that enables the investigation of the I thought to be continuous and to therefore be able to pierce through the plane of representation of the I into the I itself, the eye of the needle, the eye of Shiva, the I that is the I from which God sees. And that I we can only be. We cannot look at it from an objective perspective. You can never see God except by being that. And that means you can't be anything else like an ego. And so the plane of thought must be traversed and pierced into the realization, and then thought then as an egoic construct never again appears. Thought emerges from the silence when service of those seekers is required, but the thought happens not with any egoic intention, but as a spontaneous outflowing of body and mind from which the self has now transcended and is no longer identified with anything that happens in the apparent world, because the apparent world is no longer an apparent world to the self. It is simply the self itself. That's all. There is no other. And it's this shift of perception by perceiving through the eye of Shiva that changes everything. And one lives no longer in time, but in the eternal present. And what lives is not a person, but simply a pure awareness that is nowhere and everywhere, and is simply absolute love, absolute blissful love that has no motivation, no desire, no fear, and no internal movement, stillness, which is one of the reasons why that living symbol Arunachala was given to Sri Ramana, because the word itself, Aruna, is the light of the eye of Shiva, and Achala is the unmoving stillness that enables that light to be revealed. And so each of us must become the living symbol of Arunachala Shiva, the supreme and only self, through the total surrender of the ego mind and its core thought of I am this body into the real I that is not a thought and not an object of any kind, but the blissful awareness that is absolute and ever present and ever shining with its own light of love. This is what we are. This is what we are now. And it can only be found now in the present that transcends time. It cannot be found by the ego trapped in time, believing in time, and it won't have enough time to achieve its own transcendence if it believes that it is something that must do that. It is the surrender of the belief that there is an ego acting to gain liberation from the illusion that is what is to be surrendered. And therefore the whole idea of a gradual process must be surrendered. It can only happen instantaneously in the timeless present, because no other real moment exists except the absolute now. And so when it becomes clear, when the dawn of the light of the recognition that one must surrender all other desires, all desires for the bodily gratifications, the ambitions of the personality, the drives based on social adaptation, and the wish for higher levels of life, even the most beautiful intentions won't pave the way to the eternal present, but will get in the way and keep one creating more karma. Even if it's good karma, it's karma. And to get beyond that illusion, there must be a sacrifice even of one's ideal ego image and of the ego ideals that one was given to live as an upright citizen and be an example and a role model. All of that, they're just thoughts. And on the other side, of course, giving up the belief that I'm a failure and a sinner and unworthy and all of that. But whatever sorts of thoughts one is having, whether that one's not worthy of doing it or one is worthy of doing it, that one is what must be dissolved into pure presence. That one is not real. That one does not exist and is the final obstacle to the 0 point, for whom there is no one at all, ever, but the self that is God. You are that. May there be no doubt, no hesitation, no waiting, no maya, no obscuration by false ideas and emotions, and the simple letting go in the here and now into the blissful self that you are.
Welcome to Center of Light. Tonight is Center of Light release.
Access granted.
Is it really that easy? There is no other way. I'm sitting here in a space of surrender by his words, his heart, his demeanor, his grace and space, carrying me down this moving river of consciousness. I did offer in the forum, text-wise, Facebook and YouTube, that maybe if he was in the States, I'm limiting myself. I'm not ready to surrender yet, obviously. If he's in the States, maybe we can all take a journey to his ashram. Well, it's not in the States. So maybe Costa Rica sounds like a plan. We don't have to go into the nonsense. Well, Keith, but let's not do that. Costa Rica sounds great. Soon as we can. And go to an ashram. I went to ashram in the year 2000, which I'm going to read something from Homecoming, Crossing the Bridge to the Soul here shortly, about surrender. I went to an ashram. I won't even use words to describe it. I don't want to dirty it. I don't want to sully it. It is truly living among hundreds, depending on what ashram, or thousands of people, sometimes depending on what ashram, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people from all over the world, every walk of life, Christianity, Buddhism, Jainism, Judaism, Sikhism, Muslim, in every tribe in Africa-ism, getting along. Not getting along because they're on this ashram. It's what they are. It's delicious. So let me give you a little bit of insight of what Sat Yoga Institute in Costa Rica is about. Listen to this. It'll help you to surrender just by hearing these words I'm going to utter. It's delicious. Check this out. Sat Yoga Institute. Sat, SATYOGA.org. Sat Yoga Institute. This is the opening page. As soon as you land on this page, it's you gotta. In fact, I'm gonna drop this link. I want you to go there soon. Don't do it now. I want you to look at me because I'm so burning. Go there shortly and look at the layout. Is just delicious. So I want to read you what is on the opening page as the first statement, and then I'm gonna go down the opening page. Dedicated to raising human consciousness. Dedicated. I am in the fire. I'm surrendering everything that I think I am to be so dedicated that I lose myself. And Shunyamurti's presentation, he said that. Surrender is the death, I'm paraphrasing. Surrender is the death of your own free will. Chew on that stick of spiritual dynamite. Surrender means the death of your own free will. No wonder we're so scared to die on any level. Dedicated to raising human consciousness, Sat Yoga offers a unique approach to healing and self-realization. And underneath this statement is an icon for Buddhism, Judaism, Hinduism, Jainism, Christianity, Muslim, and so forth. We have revitalized the concept of the ancient mystery school with a contemporary curriculum and a direct path to self-realization. We are sprouting the seeds of a higher culture of creative peace and dynamic goodness in this historic moment of planetary transition. This vision, based on the true nature of being, capital word being, has been unfolding since 2002 under the guidance of Shunyamurti. The power to realize sublime illumination and live in the self-emanating field of pure love, clarity, and intuitive knowing can be attained in our heart-fulfilling retreats. So they do have retreats. And there's a link. Someone remind me. Maybe we can get a group rate. The power to realize sublime illumination and live in a self-emanating field of love, clarity, and intuitive knowing can be attained in our heart-fulfilling retreats that guide you on the sacred journey to the capital word absolute. What? All right, from my bestseller, Homecoming: Crossing the Bridge to the Soul, on the subject of surrender. This is a hybrid of my first bestseller, The Divine Principle, and my trip to India collaboration. New bestseller. But back in 1996 is when this journey started. I'm looking to get my wits about me. This will suffice. It's a different bio, so to speak, a different book entry because of The Divine Principle and Homecoming: Crossing the Bridge. So anyway, it's August 19th, 2003, as I sit at my computer to write about how this book came to be. As I reflect on my life from my present vantage point, I can see that a deliberate hand has affected it always. But because I was unaware of its influence, I lived in an ongoing state of turmoil and fear. At various times in my childhood, I did actually manage to slow down enough to sense these promptings, especially when I served as an altar boy every Sunday in church. Then, when I was a teenager, I attended a seminary school and thought seriously about becoming a Catholic priest. But that wasn't really what I wanted, it seems, because I soon reverted to my unconscious ways. As the years passed, with their many ups and downs, I came to regard the few good things that happened to me as my life's highlights, which is nonsense, and despise the bad ones because I thought that they only proved that things always got worse. And I was perpetually worried about how to surrender, or if I could actually pull it off. This kid was ever going to find his way. In my late 20s, I finally had to admit that I was living way too much chaos inside and all around me. Since nothing else I'd done had ever worked to help me get things in order. It hurts so good. I'm surrendering right here, right now. Join me in it. I will see you on the other side. Since nothing else I'd done had ever worked to help me get my things in order, I decided to at least try to surrender the rest of my life to God's will. After I made my decision to get more faith in my life, I went about living it, even though I didn't know for sure if anything was ever going to change for the better. Hello, Carmen de Shasha. From the second installment, which hopefully will be released in the near future, of Homecoming, tonight is Center of Light Release. Orgasm, eargasm. Sometimes we hear things in the ear that bring us to a space of being spiritually moist. A good Pink Floyd song, or a good song, or a beautiful idea, like Shunyamurti shared a minute ago, and that beautiful surrendered past tense, present moment, future possible space for all of us, an eargasm. Releasing control and letting go from this chapter. I asked Spirit, this is 1996, when will this cleanse? This has to do with surrender. Like I said earlier, we have to surrender all that's happening around us, that's only one, that's the crust of the bread. The bread is the manna, but that's the crust. When will this cleansing occur? Spirit response, it's happening now, Keith. Take a look around. Can you not see how the infrastructures of family, religion, education, and geopolitics are beginning to weaken? And I say without a doubt, but I also see a lot of people who want to build and are building their lives on truth. I see it on many different shows, the news, heck, no longer the news, but back then in 96. I could see it even in the eyes of people who don't even know they are searching. It seems like almost everyone is looking for something to fill the hole or feel the hole we all feel inside. What's going on? And Spirit responds somewhat sarcastically, Keith, I am answering prayers. And I say, huh? Bruh? You seem to think that the rebuilding of society and everyone's search for the truth are different from one another, but they are one and the same. You are all creating these changes by finally recognizing the illusion you have been living in, by realizing your relationship to a cause greater than yourselves, and by taking that cause up. It is through this new perception that you are becoming more globally aware, watching everything that takes place within the institutions at work in your modern world. And I ask the question, will we ever know all the answers? I mean, the truth about all the things that have been kept from us. And Spirit says, surrender, basically. If you continue your quest for me, indeed you will, because all questions will fall by the wayside when I become your answer, the answer within, the answer without question, exclamation point. What I am saying is that once everyone begins to establish the divine within themselves, you will find the solution to all of your problems. Then surrender will be very easy. You are all on the cusp of choosing your fate. And I ask, what is it that we need to do to ensure that we make it? Honest, beautiful question, right? Spirit says, take responsibility for everything that happens and tolerate nothing. Tolerating nothing can be also seen as surrender. I'm surrendering to your will by doing your will as an instrument to move about this earth, to cleanse it of all the evil. And I did use that word for out of all my presentations deliberately. I don't ever use that word. I'm doing your will to remove or illuminate the evil so it can simply be cleansed in the light of the ever-present, omnipresent, eternal awareness. Take responsibility for everything that happens and tolerate nothing that is not in alignment where you want to be. And I say, I'm sure that's going, it's so small. I'm sure that giving up, surrender. I am sure that giving up our desire to acquire stuff wouldn't hurt either. Spirit says, no, it would not. But my gosh. But surrender does not only require you to release your want for possessions. It also means you must abandon the dogmatic religious, cultural, and political beliefs instilled in you by those who want to control. The consciousness of control is so ever present, we have to become hyper vigilant to understand what it's going to take for all of us to simply surrender. Sometimes it may take a little bit of muscle and elbow grease. More often than not, definitely not. The elbow grease is for our benefit to realize there's no more grease in the elbow. My elbow's starting to hurt, kind of idea. It also means you must abandon the dogmatic religious, cultural, and political beliefs instilled in you by those who want to control. You must back out of those systems completely. You are going to have to die. You are going to have to back out of those systems completely. That part of you, to experience that ever-present awareness of God while you are alive, you're going to have to die. My condolences. You must back out of those systems completely if you are not being fed loving spoonfuls of universal truth. And I ask the question, I've met many who walk the path of universal truth, but are there enough of us to cause the world to shift? And Spirit responds in closing, thank you for joining me here in Center of Light tonight, which is Center of Light Release, Orgasm. Move into the space of divine bliss, your sensual sexual experience with the universe. So surrender truly no longer looks like me and I'm surrendering to the universe. That's not what it is. What it is there is no me. In fact, there is no universe. All there is itself. That's eternal. That's the gate, that's the fire. In closing, tonight again is Center of Light Release, surrender. I ask Spirit the question, I have met many who walk the path of universal truth, but are there enough of us to cause the world to shift? Spirit says, all over the world, there are men and women who are living such exemplary lives that they elevate the consciousness of the entire sphere of acquaintances. There are enough of you, all right. It is italicized. It is when you will make the shift that remains the question. You must surrender to hasten its arrival. Pray that it will not take too long. Dear Lord, can I get a hallelujah, amen, brother Jesus? Pray it will not take too long, because in a few years hence, Christ the Good Shepherd will be ready to gather his flock. You know what I'm going to say. You're loved beyond measure. Hang tight. The world is changing. You are the one changing the world. And it needs you simply to hang tight and surrender to the nonsense. Let that stuff gripe, moan, and complain all at once. You be in the fire of everything that can mean anything at all, but it's going to require you to die on a funeral pyre to ignite yourself into the glory of the Lord Christ, Swamiji, Buddha, whatever means anything to you that has the global heart in mind, in heart. Surrender. It's not what you think. In fact, as long as you are thinking, you will never surrender. Don't try to figure out how to surrender. You can't do it. It's impossible. Surrender means I'm going back into the divine ocean, which is infinite. How can you encapsulate words for such majesty? That is what surrender is. Don't make it a travesty. Just stop fighting yourself. Loving yourself, touching yourself, be with yourself. You don't need to explain yourself. All there is this moment. In this moment, be with yourself. Stop fighting. What is in the fire of surrender? Nothing. So why should I do it? Do it anyway. Find out what happens when you surrender. Because there's nothing, at least of what you expect, in there. It's impossible. But you can expect everything. I'll see you soon.